Hey everyone, this is Rok-C, and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now. Without any delay, let's get to your interview here on the Wrestling Epicenter. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining us on the Newsmaker line is the brand new Ring of Honor Women's Division Champion. She won the tournament. We had a lot of the contestants on. She is Rok-C. Are you with me, Miss Rok-C?
Yes, I am.
It's such a pleasure to have you on. So, how you feel being introduced as the Ring of Honor Women's Champion?
It's still a little weird to me sometimes. It's a little crazy just because I wouldn't have expected all this to happen. At 19 years old, I always knew that I wanted to be a professional wrestler, but to be like the first Ring of Honor Women's World Champion at 19, I would not have expected that.
It's amazing. I have a child that's older than you, so you make me feel incredibly old interviewing somebody this young. Absolutely. How did you find pro wrestling? What made you fall in love with this crazy business?
So I was actually a fan of The Rock for a long time because of his movies prior to watching wrestling. And there was this one time where The Rock was on. Well, my dad was flipping through the channels, and The Rock happened to be on WWE. And I was like, wait, that's The Rock. And so I stayed watching his segment, and then I stayed watching the rest of the show, and I was just hooked. And my uncles, they have always been like avid fans of wrestling, and so they always had the pay-per-views on and Monday Night Raw and whatnot. And so I ended up just starting to sit with them and watch along. And then I saw AJ Lee, and she was like the first, I guess, diva at the time that kind of caught my eye. I think seeing like the male wrestlers, I never really thought like, oh, I could do that. And then I saw her, she was like tiny and she's short and a tomboy, and that like represented what I was. And I was like, oh, I can definitely do this. But I also grew up in theater arts, and I think that kind of caught my eye as well, is like the entertainment part of wrestling. But along the way, like I just fell in love with the craft.
Beautiful. That's awesome. And you're so young. So when I talk about things like, back in high school, it wasn't cool to be wrestling. I'm talking about decades ago, but you're talking about just a few years ago. Was there a lot of peer pressure for wrestling? And what did they think of the fact that you were at such a young age and while in high school getting involved in wrestling?
From my peers or from my parents or?
From your peers, fellow students.
Oh, well, so I actually kept it to myself for a while. So I started training when I was in 8th grade. And when I was in elementary and I was like a fan of wrestling, I was kind of bullied for it a little bit. So I kind of went into middle school and high school not really wanting to like share that part of myself. I was like, I'll just keep that to myself. But I had some really close friends that I told, and that they were super supportive about it. And then kind of when I started breaking out a little bit more is when people just started finding out on their own and were kind of like, hey, you're a wrestler? And they thought it was pretty cool. But it was mostly just something that I kind of kept to myself.
Very cool. I remember when I told my parents that I wanted to do what I do now, which is what I'm doing with you right now, which is something involving wrestling. I wasn't ever going to be a wrestler. My sister looked at my mother and said, it's a good thing Grandma's gone because she'd be rolling over in her grave otherwise. Were your parents understanding when you wanted to decide to do this crazy business?
Yeah, super. So my parents were also fans of wrestling. So my mom knows all the wrestlers, and she would actually watch with me sometimes. And my stepdad, he would take me to like the wrestling shows. He actually took me to my first live event, and he surprised me. I would think I was about like 11. But yeah, as soon as I, okay, sorry.
No problem.
As soon as I'm sorry. Can we, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Were your parents supportive of you deciding to do
yes,
this?
Yes. Yes. So as soon as I told them as soon as I started watching wrestling, I was like, I'm going to be a wrestler. And I told them, and they were super supportive about it. They were always like, I'm sure at a point they were kind of like, she'll grow out of this. But no, I was so like determined that I wanted to do that. And I told my mom when I was like 11, I realized that there was some local wrestling promotions. I had no idea what the indies were.
Right.
And so I found a local wrestling promotion that was in my hometown. My stepdad's a firefighter, so one of his coworkers was a wrestler. And so he started taking me to those shows. And when I was about like 11, I was like, Mom, can you please ask if I could start training? And she's like, okay. And she asked, and they were like, well, she's a little too young. You should kind of put her into tumbling and cheerleading and gymnastics. That'll kind of help her out. And so that's what I did. And then when I turned 13, I asked my mom to ask again, and my mom did. And yeah, that's when I started training. But I feel like kind of my whole life I've just been working towards becoming a professional wrestler.
Awesome. And it's always been your talent that makes you stand out, but the name doesn't hurt. The interesting name, the interesting spelling of the name. How did that come about, choosing the interesting ring name?
So me and my mom actually came up with my ring name when I was like 10. I had like this little journal where I would come up with signatures and gear and names and whatnot, and me and my mom were just like coming up with random names, and I liked his name Rok-C, but I also was a huge fan of The Rock, and so I kind of switched up the letters a little bit, and then I used a dash for the C stands for my name, Carla, and it also stands for confidence, just because I feel like when I first started training and kind of trying to break out into the business, it was really hard, especially because you don't see 15, 16-year-olds like breaking out into the business, obviously. But I felt like I had as much heart as everybody else that was kind of in the business, so it kind of brought my confidence a little down for a while. But I feel like in wrestling, confidence is so important and something you kind of have to work towards. And I'm still working towards it to this day. So, yeah.
Very cool, very cool. I promise we're going to get to that epic moment that you won the world title just a few moments from now. But before we do, let's talk just a little bit about Booker T and how he influenced your career and maybe even helped you get a WWE television opportunity. So how has Booker T influenced your professional wrestling career?
Booker T has been such a big help. I started training at Reality Wrestling when I was about 16. And yeah, he's been such a big help. And him and Charmel, his wife Charmel, she's awesome as well. And I think me being so young and kind of, I was like getting on buses and traveling to Houston, which is like 6 hours away from my hometown. So I was traveling on buses and just going over there to train. I think being so young really, I think Booker and Charmel really helped, because it wasn't just like them helping me out with like wrestling and training and whatnot. It was like they kind of like helped me become like just a better person for wrestling and in wrestling. And yeah, Booker has always been so great, and I feel like I've learned most of what I know from Booker T.
Awesome. And of course, we talked about the Ring of Honor women's title tournament. That is really where on the national scene you've made your huge splash. And now, of course, holding that title, being the first person, nobody can ever take that from you. You're the first person to hold the Ring of Honor Women's Division Championship. I guess the first match that I saw when I realized, hey, she might win it, because all of us smart fans, we kind of map it out in our heads. You know, this is probably the way they'll go. And I think everybody had Angelina Love in the finals. And then that's not what happened. You beat Angelina Love, and people are like, well, that's incredible. What was it like to work with Angelina and to get the win over such a ring veteran?
That was awesome. And Angelina Love, she's a 7-time world champion, and she's been wrestling longer than I've been alive. So
don't say that to her. I bet she wouldn't like.
But yeah, it's kind of like these crazy full circle moments for me. Because like I remember seeing her on TV, and then for me to kind of like be put in a match against her, that was kind of a lot of pressure. But I feel like when I was on the indies, I was kind of put into a lot of situations like that where I was going up against like these amazing experienced women's wrestlers, and like I said, it was kind of a lot of pressure. Like I went up against a Jazz when I was like 17, and that was so crazy to me because I'm like, look, Jazz is like a legend.
Right.
But I feel like having those experiences at such a young age, and having those experiences on the indies kind of got me ready for things like this, like getting into matches with Angelina Love. And I didn't pull off that win with Jazz, but I pulled it off with Angelina Love. And like I said, I think these experiences really, really shaped me and helped me.
Beautiful. And Death Before Dishonor is where it happened. It's where you won the match against Miranda Alizé, with people in the crowd, which is a cool thing. How cool was that moment for you? And when you look back at it, does it still kind of like jump out at you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that actually happened?
Yeah. So during the show, Chris Hero was there to help out Agent and Maria. Both of them came up to me and were like, hey, like, take in this moment, like soak it in. Like when you walk out there, even just for your entrance, like look around. Like these moments don't happen very often. And that was my second pay-per-view. So the first one was Glory by Honor. And that was really cool because that was my first encounter with the Ring of Honor fans. And then this pay-per-view, Death Before Dishonor, they started like chanting my name during the show. So I think they put on my promo, and they all started chanting my name, and I kind of got like teary-eyed because I could hear it from the back, and I was like, what is life? What is going on? Why are they chanting my name right now? But yeah, it was just such an incredible moment. And my mom and my stepdad were there, and that meant so much to me just because they're such a giant part of my journey. And like honestly, if it wasn't for them and for them being so supportive, I would not be Ring of Honor Women's World Champion at 19. Maybe eventually, but it probably wouldn't have happened at 19. So I'm so extremely grateful for them, and to be able to share that moment and just kind of like see my mom like crying and my stepdad crying, and they were just so proud. It was just like such a precious moment.
Awesome. You mentioned Maria. We had her on when this tournament was announced, and she talked about all the great talent from around the world that was going to be part of it, and she wasn't lying. There was an amazing array of talent that was part of this tournament. But of course, those guys now, or those girls now, are your challengers. Those are people that are going to be gunning for that title. Any thoughts on who your biggest threats might be for the Ring of Honor Championship?
I wouldn't see it much as a threat. But I do know that holding the championship means that I have a giant target on my back. But I'm ready. Maria said it as well before our match, that there's not really like a door here, so anyone that wants a shot can kind of just get it. I think throughout like this tournament, I had a lot of moments where I was just like shocked when I won the matches, like against Sumi and Quinn and Angelina Love, and now it's kind of like, okay, like I kind of have to like believe in myself, like I did all that, and now it's just like I hope that people are not underestimating me anymore just because of my age. And so yeah, whoever kind of wants a shot, like I am up for any challenge.
Just a few more questions. I know you got short time today, but women's wrestling all around the world is so much bigger than it was just a few years ago. What is your thoughts on women's wrestling and the fact that every wrestling show that's on television right now features a women's match in some way or another on their show?
It is absolutely wild to me just because, like I said, when I first started watching wrestling, the first wrestler that caught my eye was like AJ, and before that, like they all had kind of like 2-minute matches. There was one match on the card. It was a commodity match, and even me going to like indie shows. I remember going to indie shows and just hearing like, "Oh, are you guys ready for the eye candy? Are you guys ready for the women's match?" And I was kind of like, "Oh, I don't like that." Like, I think women are athletes, and I feel like people are finally seeing it that way, and it's kind of being shown that way. Like, we had NWA Empower, and I thought that was amazing because there were so many of my friends from the indies that I saw on there, and it just makes me so happy because I feel like it's so possible now, and like now we're having like woman main events, and I was able to main event on a TV episode of Ring of Honor with Sumi Sakai, and I thought that was insane. But yeah, I think it makes me happy because it's finally showing that like women are capable of doing so much if it's the same as the men or even more than the men. So I think it's awesome.
Awesome. And of course, you signed with Ring of Honor now. That is your home. What does it mean to you to have Ring of Honor, a company with 20 years of history, behind you and be working for this great company?
It brings me so many like mixed emotions. It's my first contract that I've ever signed, and as soon as I was brought into Ring of Honor the first time, Maria was so welcoming, and I think she could tell that I was nervous, and she was kind of like, "Hey, like, don't be nervous, like, treat it like this is your home, like, everyone is very nice here," and she was right. Like, every time I've been there, like, everybody has just been so supportive and so nice and friendly, and I'm having so much fun there at Ring of Honor, and I just think that that's, like, the perfect place for me to be right now at this point in my career.
Beautiful. Final question for you. Of course, it's going to be about that forbidden door that everybody talks about. Seems like signing with the company doesn't necessarily mean that's the only place you can wrestle. Is there any chance that we might see Ring of Honor branch out and enjoy this whole forbidden door business that's going on where companies are working together?
Yeah, maybe, hopefully. I think that would be awesome. Like I said earlier, Maria kind of mentioned it, how she doesn't want a door here, and that anybody can have a shot at the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship, and whether that be from NWA or Impact or maybe even AEW, who knows? But yeah, I'd love to see that.
Awesome. Well, I got to tell you once again, it's been awesome talking to you. You are so wise beyond your years, and you make me feel, I just turned 40, so I feel about 100 talking to a 19-year-old guest.
No.
But I appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. Before I let you go, can I ask for one last favor from you?
Yeah, of course.
Do you mind if I ask for a station ID, just saying this is Rok-C and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter?
Yes, this is Rok-C and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter?
That's it. Yes, ma'am.
That's how you say it? Okay. Hey everyone, this is Rok-C and you're listening to the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey guys, my name is James Walsh, and you are listening to the Wrestling Epicenter here on YouTube. I want to thank you for finding us. Please do me a favor and click that subscribe button and the notifications bell. And if you get the chance on this video, click the like button. If you do, it'll turn blue. Check it out. Also, check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all this great content available in MP3 format, our online store that'll keep us going free and clear, daily news updates, as well as all the information from the history of professional wrestling you could possibly ever want. Check out WrestlingEpicenter.com online right now.